Hey BookTube, this is the 2016 end of year bookish survey. I'm Jen and I talk about audiobooks, and this is part 3 of my end of year bookish survey for 2016. If you're interested in any of the questions, it's all linked below, and here is part 3. I read 4 debuts that I counted. I didn't like any of them any better than the rest. One was an adult sci-fi, I guess you could call it. It was more literary fiction than sci-fi novel, but it's called And Again by Jessica Chiarella, and it's narrated by several people from several perspectives, so a full cast. And then Dreamology is a YA book by Lucy Keating, and that is narrated by Erin Spencer. That's a cute story. I liked Into the Dim, which is a time travel book, a YA, by Janet B. Taylor, and it is narrated by Amanda Ronconi. And then 26 Kisses by Anna Michels, and that was only available as an ebook, but that's also YA contemporary romance. All of those, I liked them all about the same. They were all 3-star books for me, so I kind of can't pick a best one. But yeah, they were all pretty good. All debuts. I absolutely loved the world building in Like a River Glorious. This is book 2 in the Walk on Earth a Stranger duology by Carson. These books are also beautiful. And this is set in the 1800s in the Old West during the Gold Rush in California. This one is set mainly. This is a journey across the U.S., and this one is set in California during the Gold Rush. Just the grittiness of the world was so good, and it's such a vivid world. I really loved it. And that is narrated on audio by Erin Mallon. This year, one of the new authors that I found was Kristan Higgins, and one of the books I read by her was called The Best Man. This is available on audio, but it's narrated by Amy Rubinate, and she's not a favorite narrator of mine. So I read this in print, and I discovered that Kristan Higgins can write a scene that plays out like you're watching it like a movie or like on television. She is brilliant at it, and in fact, The Best Man, it's the first in her Blue Heron series, and there's a scene in that that is so hysterically funny that I sat down at the breakfast table and I read it to my parents. I was visiting them, and my dad leaves the room when my mom and I start talking books. And so I said, you got to hear this, you got to hear this. And so I read the scene to them. They were laughing their heads off. We were all 3 screaming with laughter. It's so funny. So I loved that. Another book that really choked me up was Waiting on You by Kristan Higgins. I think that's book 3 in her Blue Heron series, but I don't normally get choked up with books. I don't cry very often, but this one just had so many great elements. It mainly had to do with one of the main characters, his life as a young boy growing up, and he was mistreated very badly by his aunt. And so now his uncle is dying, and he has to come back to the town and kind of check in with his uncle and take care of things. And so there were elements of that whole situation that just made me choke up. And then he's got this romance with this girl that is very funny and quite a matchmaker. And it's kind of a broken relationship that he has with her from a long time ago when they were sweethearts. And so it's kind of them finding their way back to each other. And it was just very poignant, and it kind of choked me up. It was a sweet story. I'm really glad I read it, and I highly recommend it if you like adult romance. Hidden gem for me was The Forgetting by Sharon Cameron. This I saw hauled by Jen at Reading with Pugs. It's YA. It's kind of fantasy slash sci-fi. It's really more sci-fi than anything else. But I saw her where she had gotten it, and then I found it on audio, so I listened to it, and then I was walking in Costco one day right after that and found it. So I think this is wonderful. It is a great story about people who forget everything every 12 years. Incredibly good story. It's YA. It's well done on audio. It is narrated by Therese Plummer, who is brilliant, and highly recommend it. I loved it. I read the last book in the Passage trilogy this year by Justin Cronin. Those books are The Passage, The 12, and then this last book is The City of Mirrors. It's narrated on audio by Scott Brick, and talk about soul crushing. This was incredible. It was the journey to get these characters who have been with you through the trilogy, to get them to safety, and what happens along the way in this just horribly brutal world full of creatures that are very dangerous, and they're dying out, but oh my goodness, just the way that everything resolved. It gave me such a book hangover in such a good way, and it really did crush my soul, but in a very good way. It was just, oh my gosh. I think about that book and I just want to go, whoa. Now, I didn't like this book very much, but it was Where Futures End by Parker Peevyhouse, and it's narrated by several people. It's just weird. I couldn't figure out if it was sci-fi, if it was contemporary, if it was fantasy, and it really is some kind of a combination of all three, but it jumps timelines all over the place. It was hard to follow, and I thought, what? So while it was uniquely written, I don't think it was well written. It just really wasn't for me, but it was definitely unique. This book made me mad because I felt like I was really let down, and that was The Last Star by Rick Yancey. This is the last book in the Fifth Wave trilogy. And those books are The Fifth Wave, The Infinite Sea, and then The Last Star. And The Last Star, that ending just made me mad. I thought that Rick Yancey was going to do something incredibly creative and inventive with the story. It's all about an alien invasion. It's YA. And it just fell flat. I'm still mad about it because I feel so let down. On audio, this is narrated by Phoebe, Strole, and Ben Yannette. And the two other books are also narrated by them. And one of the narrators changes from Ben Yannette to somebody else. I can't remember his name, but I was just so let down, and I'm still mad about it. I really am. I'm so annoyed because I think this had so much potential, and he just dropped the ball. Yeah. So that's it for part 3 of my end-of-year bookish survey for 2016. If you have any thoughts or comments about any of these books, then I would love to talk with you about those. So let's do that in the comments below. Part 4 is coming up, so stay tuned for that, and I will see you there. Thanks for watching.